Hello everyone, it's Gemma the Inspired Stamper here, and I've got another video tutorial for you today. Today I'm showing you this cute little vase that I've made with Valentine's in mind, definitely. It's a bit of a take on a gift box that I saw, I think it's about a year ago, by Anne Melvin. Hers had 4 sides, but it had the same sort of shape around the outside, and hers was a gift box that had a lid on it, but I wanted to make a vase because I've been playing with the lovely new tulip punch and making lots and lots of tulips, and I really thought these looked like roses. So it's a dozen red tulips and they fit inside our little vase here, and it just make a little cute centerpiece for a Valentine's dinner or just a little gift for someone. So today I'm going to be using, to make our little tag, and the designer series paper on here is the heartfelt stamp set. So I've got the Happy Valentine's stamp, going to be using that. Also going to be using the coordinating punches as well. We're going to be using the tulip punch, which is in the new catalogue, mini catalogue as well. And I'm just trying to, oh, I put it behind me, the catalogue. Ah, there it is. The designer series paper is from My Heart Speciality Designer Series paper. Now I've already punched one of these out, but this is one of the hearts off of one of the sheets in the paper pack, and the scalloped heart punch comes in a 2-pack. Is actually fits the hearts to punch them out from the paper. So we've got that and that. Let's put that out of the way. The other thing I'm going to be using to make my tulips is the 4-petal punch, which goes with the Pop of Petal stamp set, which is in the annual catalogue. So we've got those 2 punches, and also I'm going to be using the regular shapes, the regular straight-sided heart as well. So let's get these bits out of the way, and I will show you how I made the vase first, and then I will show you how I put one of my tulips together. And I'm not going to make another 12, I will just show you how to do one of them. So I've got my bits that we need for our vase. So we need a fair few little bits and pieces. So you need one main piece which measures 6 3/4 by 5 3/4, and then you need 5 pieces to go around the outside of your vase that go around the outside, and they all measure, you've got 5 of them exactly the same, they all measure 1 1/4 by 5 1/2. And these I have already pre-scored them, and I've scored them across the long side at 1 inch and at the other end at 1/4 inch. So you can either score them at 1 inch and then 5 1/4 inches, or you can score them all at 1 inch and then turn them around and score them all at 1/4 inch. It's up to you, whatever way round you want to do it. So we've got 5 of those. And then I've got 5 pieces of the designer series paper to go on. So I've got 5 that are 1 1/8 of an inch by 4 1/8 of an inch. And then these little tiny ones that are going to go on the top are 7/8 of an inch by 1 1/8 of an inch. So what I'm actually going to do, I think, is stick on my designer series paper now, so it's dry before we want to attach the sides onto our box. I'm just going to use some wet glue and stick all these on very quickly. So you will see that the designer series paper fits between the 2 score lines there and there. So we'll just get these stuck on and then we can make our main box, which is just a very simple little box for the inside. There we go. And the last one, we just want to make sure these are dry because we're going to shape the pieces before we add them on to the outside of our pentagon box. So we can add our little other bits on afterwards, but we've got the main pieces on for now. So let's move those out of the way, and I'm going to bring in my scoreboard, trying to bash it about. There we go. So on our long side, which is our 6 3/4 inch side, we are going to score this at 1 1/4 inches, 2 1/2 inches, 3 3/4 of an inch, 5 inches, and 6 1/4 inches. Then we're going to rotate our cardstock, so we've got our 5 3/4 inch side at the top, and then we are going to do a score line at 1 1/4 inches and 5 1/4 inches, like so. So we'll have a big section, we've got some small squares here, big section in the middle, and then we've got a little one running across the edge. Okay, so that's all the scoring we need to do. And now I'm just gonna fold and burnish my score lines. I'm just wondering where I've left my bone folder. It's here on my desk somewhere. Covered it up, and there we go. Right, so now we can fold and burnish all our score lines. There we go. Like so. So we've got our small side along over here. So we are going to take out our little square at the top and our rectangle here. We're going to remove that, and then we're going to cut up all of our score lines up to this score line on the bottom, and then I'll show you what we're going to do on the top. So let's cut these out. I'm going to take this off, and I'm going to take a bit of a notch out of the side as well, and again on the top, and I'm going to come in at an angle as well on the top piece there in that corner. So these score lines I'm going to cut up straight, and then on the top I'm going to cut some V shapes. So I'm going to fold it in over on that first score line, and then I'm just going to cut out a little triangle on the side there, so we get a little wedge shape, and I'm just going to do that across each score line. Snip them out. Bit of a quicker way than cutting from each side. And then on that end where we haven't got anything to cut, I just take off the corner there, like so. Now I'm going to open this so we've got our inside facing us, and I'm going to put some glue on each of these little tiny tabs, and then I'm going to fold them over. This is just to give us a nice strong edge across the top of our box. I'm just going to use my bone folder to give them a good push down and stick. There we go. It's a nice sharp edge as well. There we go. It's nice and stuck. There we go. So now we can have our box facing us again, so the outside is facing us, and we're going to put some glue along this tab. And obviously this box has got 5 sides, so it's not going to go flat. So you'll sort of have to hold it in place while your glue dries, or you could use tape if you want to. Just bring that together. Just make sure your top is in line, and then the line here is lined up together, like so. Just give that a squeeze. You can kind of give it a fold and a squeeze to get it to stick nicely. So there we go, we've got a excuse me, pentagon shape. So now I'm going to glue the bottom of my box together. So the seam of my box, I fold those down, the seam of my box is furthest away from me at the moment, so that is going to be the back, and these two flaps here are the front ones. So I'm going to fold my sides in first, then my back one, and then the two at the front. And you have to be quite careful not to push it out of shape. So I'm going to fold this one in first, and then pop some glue on each of the flaps. And then once we've got them all down together, we can just make sure we've got the correct shape. And that we see, if you push too hard, it pushes it out of shape. So we just very carefully fold our little flaps in together to make the bottom of our box. And then you can turn it over and then just push down to get that to stick. You can also just use your bone folder, pop that in, give it a little push down. There we go. So now, just to make the bottom of our box a little stronger and sit a little flatter, this is very technical. I'm just going to take a square of real red, same colour as my box. Sorry, I should have said the red cardstock today what I'm using is real red. And I'm going to put some glue on the bottom, and I'm going to stick it down and just hold it down for a moment. Give that a good push down. And then the other side. And then all I'm going to do now is take my scissors and trim around the outside of my box. There we go. You can add in a bit more glue as well if you need to as you go. It's quite a nice, easy, simple shape to cut round. But I tried it by drawing around it, and then I cut it out, and then I found that I still had to trim it. So I thought, right, we'll just stick it straight on and trim it afterwards. So there we go. So now we've got a nice neat finish on the bottom of our vase. And it was quick and simple. We didn't have to measure it or muck about. Done. There we go. So that is the inside of our vase done. So now we can take our strips that we've got. I'm going to take my bone folder, and I'm just going to use the side of it, and I'm just going to run my bone folder along it to give it a bit of a curve, which is why I say it's best to let the DSP dry off, the glue on there to dry off a little bit. So you can pull them, shape them that way, and then our top flap is going to fold back on itself. So you've got that shape, and then our little score line down here, just bend that with your fingers. Don't use your bone folder to reinforce the score line at all. So we'll just give that one a quick shape, and then again just push up your bottom score line. it's just to help it curve as we stick it to our box. We've got that one coming back. So all these little tiny rectangles that we've got on the end of our pieces, that is where we're going to put our glue. So I'm going to go along and put some wet glue on the bottom of each one. And I know I'll have a minute or so before this dries, so I can just put them all on quite quickly. Obviously you can take your time when you're attaching them. So I hold my box in my hand upside down, and then we're going to line up our strip with the bottom of our box, and you'll see it's quite easy to do where we've got our score line helping us. So I'm just going to go around and attach each one to the bottom of the pentagon box, and you'll see that all the sections are 1.25 inches. So if you want to make it bigger, you can have bigger sections on your box. Just remember to make your strips that you attach the same size, the same width as your panels. Oh, that one's a bit wobbly. It's much easier when you're holding it close to yourself. If I hold it in front of my face to do it, you're not going to see what I'm doing. So it's always fun crafting in mid-air, as I call it, under the camera. And then the final one. There we go. Right, so that's all of our strips put around the bottom of our box. There we go. Now we can attach the bits to the top as well. I'm just going to grab, there they are. I've got some of the little binder clips here. I'm going to use a few of them just to hold it in place while I'm gluing it. So now we need to attach the top section to the top of our box. So I'm going to use my glue again, and I'm just going to add one line of glue quite close to this score line here, to the edge, and then I'm going to take this and line it up with the top of the box there. And as I said, I'm just going to put one of these binder clips on just to hold it in place. There we go. And if it does mark it at all, I haven't put on the designer series paper yet, so it will cover up any marks. Hopefully they won't, but they are quite tough, those little clips. I'm just going to repeat that all the way around. Again, I'm just going to use, you could use a peg or whatever you've got handy. I knew these were handy just sitting up on my shelf so I could grab them. But when I made mine, I didn't use any clips because I had time to just sit there and hold it. But obviously it's quite boring if I'm just sitting here holding a piece of card together. So as you bring that down, it will bend our piece of card in that shape. I think we need to get that on a bit straighter. Let's turn that round so it's nice and straight. There we go. Move this cardstock. So there we go. it's quite funny, I don't really use these binder clips for any projects. I tend to use them for holding things when I'm gluing them. So you'll see I put a little bit extra, quite a bit of glue on that one. It doesn't matter too much, as long as you don't go too crazy and have it coming halfway down your strip. You just need it quite close to the top. If you prefer to use the strong tear and tape, it would just be one line of tape across the top. Okay, right, so that is our vase completed. You'll see now that all the pieces are bowing outwards and it gives us that lovely shape. So I'm going to put that to one side to dry off, and we can make some tulips. So I have got a wooden skewer, which is just one that I picked up for making kebabs, and I've got a little stamp spot here, and this has got some granny apple green on it, and all I did was run the stamping spot up and down the skewer till it coloured it all round. There we go. Get a little bit to hold on to at the end, because you do need to trim a little bit off because these skewers are quite long. So there's my skewer, which is my stem now. And then I've got a piece of old olive cardstock and my 4-leaf punch, and I'm going to punch 2 of these. So we've got 1 and 2. Then I've got some more real red cardstock, and I'm going to punch out 4 of my tulips. So we just want the main big flower. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. I mean, I think I managed to make nearly all of the 12 tulip flowers out of 1 sheet of cardstock when I was punching them out. So I was quite wise when I punched. So to form your tulip, what we're going to do is we're going to fold this in half. Okay, so we're going to fold all 4 of these in half. There we go. You could score them if you wish to. I think it just takes a little bit of extra time. If your fold line looks a little bit funny, sorry, excuse me, you can just run your bone folder over to get a nice edge. There we go. So we've got 4 of our punched tulips, what we've folded in half, and we've got our 2 punched out 4-leaf flowers. I'm just going to take my handheld 1/8 punch and roughly in the middle punch a hole, and then I'm going to shape these, curve them under. So we're going to layer these on top of each other, but we're going to do them in opposites. So I'm going to put some glue around the hole. So we've got our petals facing downwards, and then our other one, we're going to turn it over. So we've got our petals facing up, and then you can just offset that. And you can line up your punched hole. So we've got that shape for the little bit underneath. And then I'm going to take 2 of my tulips and glue them together. So we're going to do this in 2 halves. So I'm going to glue them together. Let's just line them up. There we go. They do line up quite nicely. So I've done 2 together there, and then I'm going to put the other 2 together. So that's the other side of our flower. There we go. Right, now I'm going to take my skewer. Let's just shut that punch. Bring that there so I've got something to pop that onto. There we go. So the pointy end of our skewer is the end where we're going to secure our flower. So I've put quite a lot of glue on there. Now I'm just going to smush them together to pick up some glue on either side. And then I'm going to come and literally line up the 2 halves together. And then I can sort of pick it up, get the skewer in the middle, and then give this a wiggle because our glue is nice and wet, to line that up and to get the edges of my punched out flowers straight. There we go. You can give that a good push together. And there we go, we've got our tulip on our skewer. So now I can thread on my little petal duo, and I'm going to slide it up nearly all the way up, and I've got my glue gun here. I might have to pop off. Yep, it's not going to reach. So I'm just going to run a little bit of glue around the base of the flower. Oh, have I got another glue stick? There it is. No, can't get any out. There we go. Oh, too much now. Right, if I just bring this back in, you'll see I've got a blob of hot glue there. I'm not going to put my finger in it because it's really quite hot. I'm just going to pull the straggly bits off, and then I'm going to push this up, and that will just stick and hold our little green bit underneath, and it makes it look more like a rose. And then you can just chop a bit off the end, but you'll need to wait a little while for the ink to dry on your skewer, because you'll see it is getting on my hands a little bit. So that's how you put your tulip together, and it's got really dark in here all of a sudden. So let's get on and do a little bit of stamping for our tag that I did. So I've got some real red, and here's our tag. I've got the Happy Valentine's Day layered up with the punched out heart on the other side. So let's stamp our heart first. I've just re-inked this, so it's probably going to be really juicy. Let's stamp that down. I'm going to let that dry for a minute before I take my punch anywhere near it. I got quite excited because I got some re-inkers today. And then on here I've just used the little fancy heart stamp, and I've got some Flirty Flamingo, again just been re-inked, and I've just going to stamp that in the white section on the inside. There we go. And then I want to punch out with some more real red, a scalloped heart, and then with the straight edge heart, hopefully this is dry, I'm going to punch out my heart that I've stamped. You just line that up and punch. Now I can layer these together, and I've got some of the real red ribbon. This is some real red that I've picked up from the clearance rack. It's not the ribbon that's with this suite in the mini catalogue. Although it is incredibly similar, I know it's not the same, exactly the same one. So I've just got some of the thin one here. What is this one? The thin one is the 1/8 of an inch solid ribbon, and again I picked this up off the clearance rack. It's always well worth checking out the clearance rack because you quite often get quite a bargain. And then in here I think I used a couple of glue dots, so let's grab those just to attach my ribbon inside and layer them up. So I could put them on, feed it onto the ribbon. There we go. And then I stuck this one flat to the scalloped one, and these are the same size, so they just line up. There we go. Give that a press down, and then on this one I used some dimensionals on the back. Attached that onto the opposite side. So you could just, if you didn't want to use the designer series paper heart on there, you could just punch out another one in Whisper White and leave it plain, so you could write a little message on there. But that's our little tag. Right, let's bring in our vase. This has dried and stuck now, so we can get rid of our tags. Got a right tickle going on today. So now I can add in our little rectangles of designer series paper all around on each one. I mean, if you wish to put these on before you stick it all together, it's up to you. I left mine off because I thought my clips might make a little dent, and I didn't want a dent left in my pretty paper. There we go. So as always, if you didn't catch all of the measurements, they will all be listed on my blog, and I'll have quite a few more pictures on my blog as well, so I know it's not the best for you trying to see the whole project when I'm on camera because of the camera angle being above me. But there we go, we've got our designer series paper on there. So I'm going to take some of my ribbon, I'm going to thread on my tag. Oh, just do it round the other way. So we've got our Happy Valentine's facing outwards. I'm going to wrap that round and bring it underneath. I'm going to pull that round, and then I'm going to tie that in a, hopefully in a nice bow. I'm going to pull that underneath, that's quite tight under there. I'm going to bring my two sides up, 1 and 2. I'm not very good at tying bows when they're on things. The bow on that one was a bit of a fluke, so let's have a go and see if we can do it today. Oh no, it's worked. There we go. So we can mess around and pull our tails down a bit. Oh, she says it works. Makes a bit of a disaster today. Right, so we're going to pull that down, and I'm going to poke that through, pull that a bit tighter. See, there we go. It doesn't work every time. We may say we're pros, but Even we can't get things perfect every time. Let's try again. Let's try doing it on top this time. So we've got one loop and our other one, it is a bit fiddly. So be patient and take your time. Let's try going through there. Oh, that's a bit better. But anyway, you get the idea. We want to tie a beautiful bow on the top. So we get a lovely bow that looks like that. You see, that time it just worked first time, and that is our finished little project. And then you can stand your dozen red tulips in your vase, and you've got a lovely little centerpiece or lovely little gift for someone for Valentine's Day. So there we go. As I said, everything I used today, or the measurements and everything, will be on my blog, and a link to that will be in the box below. Thank you for joining me today and bearing with me, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks, bye.